Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Download, where we'll be going through Arsenal's transfer news and regular news forever. So there you go. Yeah, make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel. I do apologize for being a couple of minutes late. I had to try to get presentable, and I wanted to make sure that I had all of the as many of the transfer stories as I could possibly get a hold of with the actual sources on them and stuff like that. So I was kind of getting things together. So I do apologize for being slightly late. Please, don't hate me. Oh, you guys, it's so hot in California now. Like, it's already like 90 something degree days and I'm dying. So there's that. I think I'll get in the pool later. But how's everybody doing? Is everybody doing well? I hope you guys are enjoying your Friday. It doesn't feel like a Friday. It's weird. Like, I don't know. It feels weird. It doesn't feel like a Friday, but I hope you guys are enjoying your Friday nonetheless. And thank you so much for, deciding to share it with me. Tony says, happy Friday, Jess, and the SKA Familia. Thank you so much. Happily Egg says, just pop by to say hello. Can't stay long. I'll have to go. All right. Well, thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. Zach 10 Football says, good morning, afternoon, evening, all. By the way, happily eggs. I don't know if you're gone now already, but how do you feel about the Darwin Nunez signing? Let me know if you're still here. If you're not, I'll ask you another day. Keenan says, doing amazing. Thanks for asking. Oh, I'm glad. I'm happy about that. I'm glad you're doing well. Tony says, it's a scorching 76 Fahrenheit in Minnesota. Yeah, everybody that I know that lives in like Minnesota, like the weather is crazy. And when I used to be a flight attendant, we used to fly through there all the time. And it was like so cold all the time. So like 76 degrees seems hot for Minnesota, but like you guys get like crazy snow and stuff like that. So yeah. Couldn't live there. Nashville Gunner says, sorry, I hate non-punctuality, so I hate you now. Oh, I'm sorry. Stay around, stick around. I'm sorry. You guys know I'll go a little bit longer just to make up for it. But let's go ahead and get started. So today, we all know the deal. The transfer window is now open. So silly season is definitely upon us. It is here. And so we are going to talk about it. Before we get started, though, like what I want to make sure that you guys understand, and like, especially if you guys haven't been here, my job is to bring you guys the rumors. I will always make sure I provide some sort of source because I never want you guys to think that I'm misrepresenting anything or making things up. There are people out here in these streets, in these YouTube streets and Twitter streets that will definitely make up things. And I am not one of them. So if I see it on my timeline, I will let you guys know what I have seen. Now, am I out here to tell you that I think for sure these things are going to get done or these are done deals or anything like that? Absolutely not. And what I like to do on this show is to talk about the rumor in general, give you guys the deets on it, the sources, and then we talk about the player, and then we can talk about the validity or the likelihood of it happening, or, how we feel about the rumor and if it'll get done. So that's the fun part about the transfer window is the possibilities, the dream, feeling like, oh, these players might come to Arsenal. Now, if you're the type of person that hates the transfer window and doesn't think we ever are going to sign anybody and you hate the links and you hate the whole thing, don't come here because that's what we're doing here, And so I'm never going to be here to sell you guys dreams or, say, yeah, I think for sure something is going to happen when it's not. You guys know, like, if I don't think something's going to happen, I keep it real. But if you hate the transfer window, this is probably not the show for you. I invite you. You're more than welcome to sit around and get in the chat box and let me know how much you hate it. But it's not going to change. Okay? So those are just them's bees the rules. Okay? So just getting started here, just like some general things is the window is open from Friday, June 10th to Thursday, September 1st at 11 p.m. So yeah, that we have 83 days until the window closes. That's what I read. And then the Premier League season does start on August the 6th. So the transfer window will still be open when the season starts, which has kind of been the norm over the last couple of seasons. And I, for one, absolutely hate that. I am not a big fan of the transfer window being open when the season is started. I think it's distracting, and I just prefer the business to be done before the season even starts, because it just feels like we're still in window mode when the season starts. And I like for my things, it's, how some people don't like their food to touch. If you like have Thanksgiving dinner and you want everything to like be separate, that's how I kind of feel about my transfer window, my Arsenal stuff. When the transfer window ends, I want the season to start. I don't want them overlapping. I don't want them running together. And so it does frustrate me a little bit that the window will still be open when the season starts. And that really brings into focus that Arsenal have got to get their business done early. We know how things were when we started off the season last season against Brentford, against Manchester City, against Chelsea, and our business wasn't done. It didn't feel like our season really started until the game against Norwich. And we were kind of already had given up a couple of points then. So hopefully the club has learned from their mistakes and they will get things done. And I get that deals are difficult, especially the big ones. They take a little bit longer, but we're seeing big deals getting done at the beginning of the window. You know, the likes of Holland have already gone, to Manchester City, Darwin Nunez going to Liverpool. Um, there's big deals already happening. Tchouaméni to Real Madrid. And it looks like the Frankie de Jong deal to Manchester United is moving pretty quickly at the beginning of the window. So 55 million for Gabriel Jesus and 25 million for Yuri Tielemans. Those are deals that are priorities and they need to be done. But not only those, the other deals need to get done as well. And so we'll kind of get into what our expectations are in a couple of seconds, but I want to just make sure that I read this out to you guys. The Premier League season will start on August 6th, 2022. Match round 16 will be the last set of matches played over the weekend of the 12th through the 13th of November, ahead of the call-up period for the tournament, which is the World Cup, beginning on Monday, the 14th of November. The league will resume on Boxing Day following the FIFA World Cup final, which takes place on Sunday, December 18th, 2022. So essentially, there's only like a week in between the end of the World Cup, if you were to get into the final, to Boxing Day, like the next game that will resume the Premier League season. The final match round of the campaign will be played on the 28th of May in 2023. So, and the fixtures will be released on the 16th of June, which is just 6 days away. So we'll know kind of the last two seasons have been very difficult matches right off rip. Not really. Well, the season before last, it was like Fulham, then West Ham, and then it was like Liverpool, I think, next or something like that. So it wasn't that hard, but like still, like it wasn't easy. And last season was definitely difficult with Manchester City and Chelsea being so early on in the season. So we'll get to see the fixtures. But as you can see, like this Winter World Cup is going to it's going to shake things up. And I have to be honest, like I am not excited about a Winter World Cup. I think the World Cup has got to be a tournament that's in the summer. And I get that in Qatar, you can't do it in the summer. Nevertheless, like you just want to be outside with, a glass of alcohol in the sun or at a pub or something like that. I know you guys have beer gardens in the UK watching those games. I just wonder about what the quality of the Premier League and the World Cup is going to be with the disruption and inevitably players wanting to maybe conserve themselves or protect themselves from getting injured ahead of the World Cup. And then what is the quality of it going to be after the fact when players are coming back in? So there's several different things here. We need to get our business done early. We need to make sure that we have a full squad of 25 players because we're going to need them to play in 4 competitions and also compensate for that Winter World Cup. And so it's going to be like, this is different. We're going to also have 5 subs. So I would expect us to have 25 players. I would expect us to want to have more quality and depth. And so that's what calls into question the idea of us only bringing in like 3 players. That's not enough. Arsenal have got to figure out a way to get at least 5 players in. And they probably are going to have to maintain some of the players that they have. Like, that's probably why you see the likes of like El Neni and Nketiah staying, because we're going to need a full squad to get through the season. An international tournament and 4 competitions is no joke. And it's going to be off of the back of a couple of years of nonstop football. So there's a lot there, but the transfer, in terms of Arsenal's transfer window, there's a lot to get done. But I wanted to make sure that we kind of, touched on that, because it's not just about like the targets and all that kind of stuff, but it's how are Arsenal going to prepare for a season unlike any other? How are they going to be prepared for this? I mean, we're going to have a lot of players gone to this World Cup. So how are we going to make sure that the players that are not there stay fit and ready to go? And we've also seen like our nutritionist has been removed or has been let go. And the head like physio or the guy that was running the peak performance program at Arsenal was also left. And maybe there's going to be a shift in, the types of people that we bring into those spots, because Arsenal get a lot of injuries. We get injuries to key players. We have our young players are kind of always out injured or out sick or whatever. And so we're going to need everybody on all fronts, making sure that Arsenal can get through the season, because if we're prepared and other teams aren't, there may be an opportunity there to sneak into the top 4 or something like that, because other teams are going to have more players than us in that World Cup. Maybe they're not as prepared. You never know. But that's just something I wanted to bring up before we actually got into the links, because they have a big job on their hands. They really do. Zach 10 Football says Enrique would love wingers like Martinelli, Saka, and Raphinha if we get him. Tony says we should just buy only Italian players, not have to worry about the World Cup. I mean, I have to say, like, I know this sounds bad, and to anybody who is Scottish, please don't hate me for saying this, but a benefit of Scotland not going is Tierney being able to sit on his ass for 5 weeks. And I love that. But then they also are going to have to figure out ways to keep those players fit and ready to go. But when I look at our team, I just think, Saka is probably going to be at the World Cup. Martinelli's going to be at the World Cup. If we get Gabriel Jesus, he's going to be at the World Cup. So is Yuri Tielemans, Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka. That's a lot right there. That's not counting maybe if Ben White makes it. Gabriel, we know, is going to be in the Brazilian setup. Tomiyasu is going to be there. Ramsdale is going to be there. That's like almost our entire first team. So they're going to have to make sure that they have a good amount of players, ready to go. Keenan says, yeah, our lack of depth is going to really hurt us, especially if Nketiah plays for Ghana. Whew, yeah. Matt says, fully get what you're saying, but it being the winner will not stop me from having a few drinks watching it. Fair. That's fair enough. I just like the vibes of the summer. I feel like it's so much better, but I get what you're saying. Yo-Yo says, dreaming Luis Enrique joins Arsenal after the World Cup. Let's see. Seawalder says, would love us to swoop on that De Jong deal. I think it's too far gone at this point, to be honest. Let's see. Kangaroo says Scamacca would be a good alternative if we can't get Jesus. Even Forbes says, don't manifest Xhaka still being an Arsenal player by the end of the window, please. Craig says, hi, Jess. We are now in silly season, the transfer window. Exactly. Yo-Yo says there's always an opportunity, but Arteta has shown that he's not equipped to seize them. I think that's in regards to me saying that, if we're prepared and other teams aren't, and they come back from, the Winter World Cup not being ready to go, there'll be an opportunity. I definitely hear that. Zach 10 says, remember when we had no one but Saka on international duty? I definitely remember those days. Like, there was times where we had like full teams just sitting around because they weren't getting called up to their national teams, but times are different. And I think that does show that, we have quality players. And I wouldn't expect anything to change anytime soon. So let's move forward. So let's start with our first signing of the transfer window. Arsenal have signed the young forward Marquinhos from Sao Paulo on a 5-year contract for about £3 million. I know that some people are not super excited about this deal because it's a young player. He's an unknown, and he's not he's I think everything like is about the sequence, right? So like we talked about this when the Nketiah and El Neni extensions come out, and then you see Marquinhos is the first signing. You start to think, well, what's going on with our window? It's dead. I just think those are the easiest things to go ahead and get done early, and this is something that's been getting worked on for a while now. Adu really wants to create a partnership or some sort of relationship connection with Sao Paulo, um, using his Brazilian connections and things like that, and bringing in Marquinhos for a fee rather than trying to get him for free has facilitated the likelihood of that partnership coming to fruition. And so, we get Marquinhos in that trade, like we get him. And so, this is one where it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell whether or not he's close to the first team or he's going to go out on a loan. Different reports have come out around what his immediate future could be. It could be out on loan. It could be in the first team because we need players. And it's just a matter of like, is he a Martinelli or not? I think that's kind of what it is. It's like, is he like Martinelli? Because if he is, then he could potentially be a backup to Bukayo Saka, you know, um, in the Europa League or the early stage, like group phases of the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. So, this is something that I just feel like we have to wait and see. I don't think that this is a indication of where our window is going. Arsenal sign a young player every window. We have done for a very long time. We've always kind of like signed some unknown and seen what happened with it. So I don't think that this is anything to get like alarmed about. I have seen people kind of, in my opinion, overreact to this as if this is all we're going to do. This is not all we're going to do. This is something to facilitate a relationship, which some really good players over the years, if you haven't known, like have come from Sao Paulo. So it wouldn't be that bad of an idea to have a relationship with Sao Paulo. And as we've kind of seen over the last couple of months, is that we want to have a relationship with Sao Paulo as well as Feyenoord and also Watford. So whether that's, being able to bring in their young talent and facilitate easier deals into the Arsenal, or being able to send our players on loan to those teams. I think that those are good things. It's not, we want to focus on the big signings and stuff like that, and I get that, but like also these relationships for the future could be really important for Arsenal. We don't have feeder clubs, we don't have teams where we just monopolize their talent, and I think we need to kind of have those relationships. I also feel like there's something happening with the Belgium kind of talent as well. It feels like we're being linked to more and more Belgium talent, and ever since we worked with Vincent Company, to bring in Sambi Lakanga, those links have become stronger and stronger and stronger. I like the idea of monopolizing certain markets and making sure we're at the front of the queue in terms of talent, young talent coming from those areas of the world. So whether that's a relationship with Sao Paulo, Feyenoord, somewhere in Belgium, or Watford, I don't care. And so I'm excited to see what happens with Marquinhos. I'm excited to see whether or not he's good enough to play the first team. He will be, there for preseason, so we'll get a chance to see him. But like, I'm excited for him. I'm excited for Marcelo Flores. Like, I want to see what young players are going to come through. There's always one, that pops out and makes it into the first team and gets to stay along for the ride. So I am kind of excited about this one, but I know why some others are not, because it's not a big signing. She Knows Football says Marquinhos will look good in that new kit in the collar. Let's see. The Edry says these youth deals have always been one of my loves for the Arsenal. Let's see. Keenan says Marquinhos is going to be a good squad player, or we can loan him out for more experience. It's a very good long-term signing. Lionide says don't underestimate Marquinhos. Craig says, we signed Ria Miyachi under Wenger. Exactly, Jess. We always sign youth regardless. It's just kind of what we do. You can always kind of expect some sort of signing like this. It doesn't usually block anything. Like I think we didn't really do one last summer in terms of like this type of fee, but I almost think Sambi was kind of like that. Um, so we always kind of sign someone. It's just a matter of how good they are and how close they are to the first team. Jabu says Marquinhos is more physically developed than when Martinelli arrived. I think he will stay at least for the first 6 months. He's a good young player. Yo-Yo says Martinelli, Mateo weren't meant to be in the first team, but impressed Unai in the summer camp and took their chances. And if you guys have like been reading about Marcelo Flores, he's actually not went out to the Mexican under 20 team to focus on preseason with Arsenal. And so he's one to watch, as well as, the likes of Patino and Omari Hutchinson. They're all going to get an opportunity, to show what they can do. And I know it's not the most exciting thing. Some Arsenal fans are like, we need to focus on bigger signings and things like that. But this is a part of the fabric of Arsenal Football Club, is to bring young players through and they get chances in the first team. That's why we have Emil Smith-Rowe. He's somebody that got rejected at Chelsea, but got an opportunity to get into the first team at Arsenal. It's just who we are. And so I always get excited about this part of preseason because you just never know who it's going to be. And it may be Marquinhos. Lucas says Marquinhos signing is like a second round draft pick, low risk, high reward. Tony says the player is a punt. I hope he's great, but no big loss if he isn't. Will the partnership bear fruit is the big question. Big ado question. I agree. Kingeris says Marquinhos should go out on loan and play the championship. To be honest, South American players are very hardworking and play with grit, so he will do well. Olivier says he looks 30. Craig says 3 million is no loss or gamble if he works out. Great. If he doesn't, who cares, right? Exactly. And Kingeris also says one for the future. So yeah, it's one of those where let's just see. Let's just see what happens. Like, there's nothing wrong with these types of signings. So there you go. Now, let's move on to the next one. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. So these two, let's go ahead. We're going to do these two in connection to each other. Arsenal remain confident that they can land their two top targets in Gabriel Jesus and Tielemans. So these are, the main deals, the main priorities, and there's a lot of noise around these two deals. There's a lot of noise around, other teams being interested in these players and them looking for other options. And, I think if the deal were to be hijacked, we would know right away. Because it would be very loud and out there. So I think the fact that we're kind of quiet on it and quietly confident, and there's a lot of noise around other teams getting involved, I think is good for us, to be honest. Just like how we get used all the time to facilitate or to drum up more interest or get other teams to hurry up. I don't think that it's much different than what's happening right now. If these deals were in jeopardy, I think we would know. I do think we would know. We'd be looking at other options. The likes of Ornstein, who gets fed by the club, wouldn't be talking about these deals so openly. So I think we're still in a good position. That being said, the deals need to be wrapped up soon, because the longer the window is open, the more likely it is that other clubs will come in and be interested in these two players. They're both very good. I also think that there's two different scenarios here. I think with Tielemans, even though there's, so-and-so is interested in him, so-and-so is interested in him, whatever. I think this one is more likely to come off because he's a player that's going to look at Arsenal as a step up. And not a lot of the other Champions League teams are willing to really put themselves out there to get him. He's one of an option, maybe, if they actually can get it done. he's our number one option, and we're still a step up for him because Leicester don't have any sort of, Champions League or Europa League or anything like that. So, Yuri Tielemans is in a different scenario than Gabriel Jesus because let's not get it twisted. They're not on the same level. Gabriel Jesus to come to Arsenal would be doing kind of like a sideways step down to Arsenal. So the idea that we're going to have just like this free run at him the entire window is not likely. And so, we know that Real Madrid are no longer a threat. It's already been kind of put out there by very reliable journalists that that deal is not going to come to fruition. I told you guys that the other day. It just is not feasible. It's not likely he will end up in the in the Premier League. It's just a matter of which team he ends up. And of course, Spurs and Chelsea, who he's been offered to, can offer him Champions League, but it's whether or not they actually like him enough to put in a bid and make him a priority. The thing about Jesus is he wants to get the deal done early. He wants to know what his future is, and he also wants to be the main man. He wants assurances on playing time. And I think at those two clubs, it could be tricky for him to get that type of guarantee. And, if another opportunity were to arise, those two clubs might look somewhere else. We know that Chelsea are looking at multiple options. They're looking at Raheem Sterling. They're looking at Christopher Nkunku. And they also need to get rid of Lukaku and move on Timo Werner. Spurs, they have Harry Kane, they have Son, they have Kulusevski, they just brought in Perisic. That's not necessarily a group of players that I think he walks straight into and starts every single game. So Gabriel Jesus, based on what he wants, it seems like Arsenal would be a perfect fit. That being said, I still think Arsenal need to wrap this deal up and make sure that they offer the right things so that it can get done quickly. I am still very confident that these two deals get done. It just needs to get done quickly. All right, let's see. Let's see. Borat says Tielemans is a bit risky. Jesus, I don't know, up and down. Let's see. Let's see what you guys are saying. Lionheart says last call for Nkunku. Craig says, I think Jesus and Tielemans are done, in my opinion, just waiting for the announcements. Jesus is better than anyone we have in attack. I mean, I don't know about, I think they're done. I think we've done a lot of legwork, and it's a matter of like, the fees and all that kind of stuff. I do think Tielemans, like, also these players are on vacation, they're on international duty. So it is difficult to get deals done when that kind of stuff is happening. I think we'll still have to wait like a couple more days to see things really firm up. But I think with Tielemans, that might get done a little bit quicker than Jesus, just because there may be a chance that Jesus waits a little bit, to make sure nobody else comes in for him or whatever. But Manchester City want to get the deal done quickly. He wants to get the deal done quickly. So we just kind of have to see, what happens with that. So, but I do think Jesus is better than anybody that we have in our attack. I do agree with that. Keenan says a Tielemans and Lukaku link could pay dividends, and we tend to create a lot of chances that die around the center forward position. I could see Lukaku being a massive piece of the puzzle. I just don't see Lukaku coming to Arsenal. He wants to go back to Inter. He doesn't want to be in the Premier League anymore. So, whether or not it's a good fit, that can be debated all day long. But I think in terms of like, would he come to Arsenal? I think that that's very slim, very, very slim, almost non-existent. Jabu says it sucks that we no longer getting to Danilo from Palmeiras. Very good player. Yeah. He is a good player. I'm not sure, if we would go back in for him or if the interest was really concrete, but we'll see. If we do anything for central defensive midfielder. Blaze says, please keep away from Lukaku. We suffer a lot from Lacazette last season, so we don't need a Lukaku. Troy says, I'm seeing a few Arsenal fans saying Arsenal should go give Richarlison a chance. I wouldn't. I mean, I would, but not instead of Gabriel Jesus. I think we have to go as far with that as possible and then see if we need something else. But these two are our main targets. They're our main focuses. And so they kind of need to get done as quickly as possible. One thing I will say is that, like, there are definitely consequences of not being in Champions League and allowing our contemporaries to get a leg up on us. So it's just, I do think that, with the deals and stuff, we have to be willing to pay over the odds, pay more wages, and hope that nobody else can offer the same thing because, Champions League is a big pull. So, yeah, the club really has to make sure they're on point. And like, because they made, they knew what they were doing, they already knew what targets they wanted, and they were confident that they could get them with or without Champions League. They kind of need to get these over the line, don't they? Because if they were to lose out on Gabriel Jesus or Tielemans at this point because they did not have Champions League, I think that that would be very embarrassing for them, really, because they spoke about the window as if it was a certainty and they really knew what they were doing and they knew we weren't going to get Champions League or they weren't expecting Champions League, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect the window. We'll see. We'll see. And then so in regards to the whole Scamacca thing, with Gabriel Jesus, the Athletic came out with an article kind of speaking about Scamacca being a player that would leave Italy, which is funny because this whole entire time I've been basically saying that he wouldn't leave. He would leave. We could put together some sort of package to get him to Arsenal. But there are questions around the profile from the coaching staff because he's nothing like Gabriel Jesus, who's our number one target. So I don't know. Take that with a pinch of salt because the Athletic, I think they have really good information, but they're also fed certain things from the club. So, maybe Arsenal want to play certain things down or make sure that there's lower expectations of the window, or maybe other teams think that we don't have as much money so that they can kind of bargain a little bit better or negotiate a little bit better. But, Scamacca doesn't look like something that's getting done, or doesn't look like an option unless Gabriel Jesus doesn't come off. And then we would go after somebody like him. But also, PSG are very interested in him. And if he is willing to leave Italy, I'm sure he would choose PSG over Arsenal. So you have that. But Scamacca, there is some sort of interest there. I thought it was interesting that they said that, there's some questions and apprehension and reluctancy from the coaching staff. The coaching staff is Arteta as well. So I'm wondering if, the coaching staff that includes Arteta don't really want Scamacca and prefer Jesus, because that's the profile that they want. And Edu is somebody that really wants Scamacca, which would kind of speak to what we talked about the other day around Arteta and Edu not always agreeing on profiles, and it's not that big of a deal. They also talked about Narbury not being a real link, things like that. So either they're playing those links down or we really don't have any interest in those players. Matt says the Scamacca links do nothing but help us, as you say, if we look desperate to pay 10 to 20 more for Jesus. Let's see. Lynn says, but for me, Jess, surely long-term knowing Arteta and how he works, if Arteta says that Jesus would be the Arsenal's main man, Jesus would believe him. If he goes elsewhere, they could tell him anything. I mean, we have some things that are that look good in our favor in terms of Jesus. We just have to see how things play out. Let's see. Keenan says, I think Jesus could be swayed by Chelsea to get Champions League football, and with Lukaku departing, they can't offer Jesus the number 9. I hope Edu is keeping multiple irons in the fire in case this deal falls apart. I mean, I agree. I think Chelsea could sway him because, they can offer him everything that we can. It's just a matter of how quickly they could get the deal done because, again, he's our number one choice. Jesus is an option for them if they can't get other players. So he's been offered to them. When you're offered to a club, that's because they weren't even thinking about you in the first place. So not only are you an afterthought, but they have other options that they can go for, and Nkunku and Raheem Sterling in particular. Those are their main options. And it also depends on how long it takes for Lukaku to go. Because for Jesus, it could be really risky for him to wait, and let Chelsea be like, we're interested. We're not sure 100%, but we're interested. Just wait until we sort out the Lukaku situation, and then we'll make a decision on you. If he waits and they decide to go with somebody else and it's at the end of the window, he's screwed. So I do think that there is a chance that he can be swayed, especially if Chelsea can do things quickly. But one of the things that his agent has spoken about often is that he wants it done quick. He wants to know who his club is so that he can be there during preseason and ensure that he gets a good start to next season to make sure he makes that Brazilian national team, because he's on the fringes of that team. So Chelsea is obviously a big threat, and I would hope that we have enough done, in that deal to get it over the line. But this is Edu we're talking about, and he doesn't always get things done. So we'll see. Let's see. All right. Yo-Yo says Arteta, Edu shouldn't always agree, but their compromise vision must complement with the team. Klopp wanted Werner and was given Jota by his superiors. Let's see. And yeah, also there's the likes of like Havertz is there. He also plays through the middle. So I don't actually think that Chelsea can say without a shadow of a doubt he's the number one. He would be another option in a group of forwards that will be swapping positions. That doesn't necessarily give him any sort of guarantee. They can offer him the number 9 shirt, but that doesn't necessarily mean you play every single day. Lukaku didn't play at all, and he was the number 9, right? Keenan says Scamacca honestly looks to be a really good striker. If we get him and Gnabry, Gakpo, I think it'll be a good window. I haven't heard anything about Gakpo lately. The Athletic did kind of come out and kibosh the whole Gnabry links. So we'll see what happens with those. Let's see. Let's see what you guys are saying. Lynn says, but if Sterling goes to Chelsea, he would be more up the pecking order than Jesus, because Sterling has played beside a lot more Chelsea players than Jesus. I don't think they would bring in both. I just think Chelsea have other options, and he's not their number one choice. They have other options. And so I could see them saying, we have interest in you. Just hold off. Don't go to Arsenal. We'll see once we sell Lukaku what we want to do. But that leaves his future in question. And they could go after Raheem Sterling, because Raheem might leave this summer. So, and I think that they're more interested in Raheem Sterling. Again, they've been offered Gabriel Jesus, and they've been offered Gabriel Jesus by his agent. So I'm sure they're looking at their options, and they're also trying to force the price up, or force the wages up and things like that. So yeah. Let's see. Saida says, in January, Arsenal kept saying they were confident of being able to convince Vlahovic to come. I wouldn't say I'm optimistic, as Edu doesn't fill me with confidence. O'Malley says, this Jesus rumor seems like Madison all over again. I'm not certain of Jesus anymore. I mean, what's actually changed, you guys? I mean, the only thing that's really changed about the Jesus thing is that another team has come in. Like, nothing has really changed. The window just opened today. His agent also said that nothing would really happen and his future would be more clear after the international games have ended. They ended, like 2 days ago? So I don't think much has really changed, except for we're not really confident that we can convince him to come if Chelsea actually are really serious. But nothing has really changed yet. So I wouldn't freak out too much, to be honest. I wouldn't freak out about it too much just yet. Let's see. All right. So yeah. All right. Tony says, I think the deal is already done for 2 players. I mean, I have I've been told by quite a few people that certain deals have been done, but equally, you never really know. Mikey B says the agent is twerking and he speaks for Jesus, Jess. Okay. Lucas says, club fed the Athletic with only what they want to come out. I don't believe most stuff. So yeah, let's see what happens with those. We'll move on. There's 220 or 212 of you guys in here. Make like the video and subscribe to the channel. So yeah, let's do this. Because I know this guy was just what you guys want to talk about. Arsenal are looking at Raphinha. No official talks with Leeds yet, but the interest is there. What happens with Pepe could determine how hard they push. That particular clip is actually coming from Charles Watts, but multiple journalists have, confirmed this. Sam J. Dean was I think the original source for this. It's not the first time that we've been linked to him. It says Arsenal, I've joined the race for Raphinha from Leeds. A lot of this is coming about with the kind of I think feeling that Barcelona are really struggling financially, and even though Rafinha really wants to go there financially, they may not be able to get that done. And I know Barcelona really want to get they really want to get the Lewandowski deal done. And I think that that's their priority, is to get Lewandowski. Anything beyond that, I think, will be a stretch for them because they're in such astronomical debt. And so a move for Rafinha may not come off. This is from like the Telegraph, was saying Arsenal hope to strengthen the forward line and increase the size of the squad. With Nicola Pepe expected to leave Arsenal this summer, Rafinha would provide more depth and competition in a key wide position in Mikel Arteta's attack. So there is some interest there. What I will say is that if the deal falls apart with Barcelona, I do think that there will be a lot of clubs interested in him. Not just us. It won't, it'll be clubs with Champions League. As much as I want this to be a thing, I just don't think it will. Rafinha would be a perfect player to play on the right-hand side to share time with Bukayo Saka. And a serious team would go out there and get a player like this. Because also Saka needs competition for his place, like he does. And so having Rafinha and Bukayo, and then also, adding a Gabriel Jesus type player, would be ideal for Arsenal. I just wonder, again, if us not being in Champions League will hurt our chances of being able to get a player like this, because Rafinha is a top player. Like, he's not a top player, but there'll be enough top teams wanting him this summer. So it'll be interesting to see, because I know that like a lot of teams could afford him, but like Manchester United are deep, in conversations with Asensio as well as Antony. So they probably wouldn't be in the market for another winger. Chelsea are bringing in Dembele, so maybe they don't need anybody either, because they have a lot of forwards. That kind of leaves Liverpool, who look to be signing Darwin Nunez and already kind of have some forwards there. So, I mean, I do think other teams would be interested. We might be in a good position based on the fact that other teams are already in talks or have already kind of well stocked in those positions. But, I don't know if I would start getting excited about something like this. I know, and a lot of a lot of journalists tend to use Arsenal as kind of like a kind of like, come look, come look, come look, because we're kind of like a fan base that really likes to be online. We're a big fan base. So I'm sure there's interest there, but there's no bid. Nicola Pepe has to go somewhere. So we'll see. We will see what happens with that. Let's see. Yo-Yo says more Brazilians would mean a needed return to our yellow away kit. I love that. Mackie says we need level raisers. I'm tired of hearing about people like Gakpo or some other players that don't raise our level right now to a top 4 team. So are you saying that Raphinha is a player that would lift those levels? Keenan says the only issue is Rafinha is primarily a right winger. I think we need to prioritize getting a left wing that has experience and strong production. I have something for that. So just wait a minute. We're going to talk about that player just in a second. So yeah, let's see. Lionide says Barcelona linked with every good player, which with limited finances. Lynn says Adu links Arsenal with every Brazilian player in the Premier League and abroad. For me, Adu has to start looking at other players. It would be nice if he could actually bring these Brazilian players to our club. I don't think there's. I mean, I get that having the initial on the ground link to young talent is important, but I would hope that his influence would have brought us more of the Raphinhas and the Jesuses and the Bruno Guimaraes and the Paquetás. That is the next generation of the Brazilian national team. They're all within the ages of like 23 and 26, something around there. And that is the age range that I kind of thought that his influence would get us. But so far, it's gotten us the over the hill guy that doesn't really have anywhere to go in Willian. And he was somewhat involved in the Martinelli deal. So there's no point in having him as our DOF if we don't have a stranglehold on a certain market. Having somebody like Ten Hag is going to give Manchester United somewhat of a advantage in the Dutch market, especially players that are coming from Ajax. What has having Adu given us an edge on? If we can't convince Gabriel Jesus to come without any issues, or Rafinha, or Bruno Guimaraes, then what is the point? That's always kind of been like my thing. It's like if we don't get it, because he's not like a very good DOF. Like he's not like Luis Campos or anybody like that. So if he's not giving us an edge somewhere, what's the point? You know, what's the point? Monty97 says, I hope we get all these rumored players, but we never do, apart from one. Craig says, my worry, Jess, is we need two quality forwards. Signing Jesus alone, and we are getting linked with wingers again, tells me we might only buy one striker. I mean, I think we are only going to buy one striker. I think I've been very vocal about feeling like we'll only bring in one striker because re-signing Nketiah means something. You can't have Nketiah resign and then you tell him, actually, we're going to bring in two strikers that are going to be ahead of you. That's what he's been here. Like he's had Aubameyang and Lacazette ahead of him. So why would he resign if he's going to have Gabriel Jesus and Scamacca ahead of him? That's just it's not likely. So for me, I think our Arsenal will try to fill in those forward positions. I would like, because Pepe is a right winger, but I still think regardless, we need a left winger or somebody who can play off of the left. Arsenal need to be ambitious. They need to get their finger out. You can't just have 20, 21 players, 22 players. Like you need to just pull your finger out. And, some of the players that we're bringing in are going to be like 25 million or something like that. I get that, like, the Cronkies can be tight sometimes or like not really be super ambitious, but this is the time. We're in a period where we're going to have to convince some of our best and brightest talent to stay at Arsenal. And the way that you do that is by being ambitious and not being, we're just going to bring in one midfielder and one striker. And if Pepe leaves, no, like get it done. We need a lot of players. This World Cup and these four competitions are going to ravage our team. So you need it, and you need the quality of the player to go up. So, and we don't need any more defenders. If we get a defender, it just needs to be one left back. Use all your resources to improve the midfield and the attackers. And so I don't think we'll get another striker, but I would expect a left winger and maybe even a right winger to come in if we can get rid of Pepe. Like, what are we saving the money for? What are we actually spending the money on? If we get Gabriel Jesus and Tielemans, that's only like half of the budget. So where's the rest of the money going? It cannot go into a center back. Mark Hines says, I can't see Rafinha going to Arsenal. I can see Chelsea still looking at him. Don't overlook Barcelona. With Salah having 12 months left, I can see Liverpool planning ahead and going for Rafinha. Yeah, I mean, there's some other teams that definitely will go for him. Keenan says, honestly, if we have the money and we're really going to push for CL football, having Rafinha in the forward rotation would be insane. He definitely raises the levels. We would just need a 250 million war chest. I mean, would we though? Like, how much would Raphinha cost? 50 million, something like that. That's what Leeds want. So that plus Tielemans, that's 125. You spend another 25 on one more player, a fullback or something, and you're good to go. So we don't need 250 million if we actually focus on the areas of the pitch that we need to, which is not center back. It's not, it's midfield and the forward positions. We need, like I said at the beginning, that we needed like 3 forwards, and two even feels like it's too light. And the reason why I say that is because at any moment in time, Martinelli or ESR can go into a goal drought, or Gabriel Jesus, if we were to get him, could get injured. And we're right back in the situation that we've been in. So Arsenal need to be proactive. They almost need to have more than what they need. They need to be overly prepared. They need to be prepared for anything. So yeah, I don't think we need 250 million. I just think when you're buying players that have only a year left in their deal, like Tielemans, who's only going to cost you like 25 million, Gabriel Jesus costs you 50, you have at least 75 million more to play with if the reports about the money are correct. And then you're still going to sell players. So where's the money going? It needs to go into that forward line, basically. Mackie says Raphinha, Gnabry, those sort of players are Champions League quality. I'm really disappointed that we aren't going for Frankie and let United take him for 60 million euros. It is what it is, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know what to say about the Frankie de Jong thing because, he would have been my number one choice for the left midfield, but we weren't going to go there and push the boat out. And like for United to convince Frankie de Jong to go there, they kind of needed something, and they have Ten Hag. What were we going to go there with? We don't have Champions League. We don't have a manager that he knows and trusts. So I don't think we would have had an opportunity to get him, really, because Manchester United are barely pulling that off. The rumors are they fluctuate between he's okay to go there and he's still not convinced, but he's basically being forced out. So, we don't have any pull, really, so if Manchester United are barely getting that deal done, there's no way that we were going to get that deal done. Capo TV says, big up Jess. Hey, Capo TV says, we need players that are going to come in and offer us something now. This window, we don't need potential, but genuine quality in our starting 11. Depth is unnecessary when our 11 is weak. I hear that. And Nashville Gunner says, that was like 10 minutes ago. You were on Google for a long time. So yeah, that's pretty much like, that's pretty much like the thing on Rafinha is that there's obviously interest there. Why wouldn't we be interested in Rafinha? But, I'm really interested to see what Arsenal are going to do because they need to be able to convince players that this project is going in the right direction, and to convince somebody like Rafinha, to convince Gabriel Jesus, to convince those types of players, you're going to have to tell them that we're going to get Champions League at some point, like next season. They're not going to stick around for Europa League. So I'm just not sure that they have what it takes to actually really convince them. And another way to convince players that you're serious is by signing other really good players. So maybe getting Gabriel Jesus and Tielemans over the line will show something, but Raphinha it's going to be difficult to get that one over because he's going to have so many teams looking at him. But I would love him. I would. Let's see. Tony says swap with Raphinha for Pepe plus cash. I could see Pepe doing well at Leeds. I think Pepe needs to leave this league, and also his wages are going to be an issue. So personally, what I see with Pepe is going to be some sort of dry loan or a loan with an option going to another league, and we'll be paying some sort of portion because he hasn't proved. I don't think he's not the type of player that I think or people are going to look at and just say Arsenal have misused him. He's perfect. Like I think teams are going to be apprehensive about bringing him in because he hasn't really shown any sort of consistency. Mackie says, still Adu and Arteta just showing lack of ambition after a season of talking big about how next season we're going to have level raisers. A lot needs to change this summer for that to happen. I mean, I think Tielemans and Gabriel Jesus are a good start. I don't think it can be the end. And, the other pieces that you bring in cannot be kids. So they do have a lot of work to do to really convince that. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Let's see what happens with that. There's 220 of you guys in here. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, this is the one that I'm actually excited about. Let's talk about. No, this is not it. Okay, we'll go back to that one. Trossard. So when you guys were saying we need a left winger that's experienced, that has end product and stuff like that. Well, Arsenal are said to be interested in Lissandro Trossard. He's 27 years old and he has 1 year left on his deal at Brighton. What do you guys think about Trossard? Because over the last 2 seasons, I've been trying to figure out if I actually believe he's good or not because, you watch a lot of Brighton and he pops off the screen. Like he just does. Like you can just tell that there's some quality there. But I was like, is that the system? Because, Graham Potter's a really good coach and a lot of them look really good in that system, but are they actually that good? And the season before last, he looked good, but I don't think the end product was necessarily there. This season, I think he scored like 7 goals and has 3 assists. So, the end product was definitely there. And he's in the Belgium national team, just like Tielemans. And, this is somebody that plays on the left-hand side of the front 3 that's right-footed. So that kind of fits the bill in terms of having the inverted, but he also has 2 feet and he's very technical and he has the ability to play across the front 3. It can also play in midfield and is a Premier League proven player with 1 year left, which is kind of what we've been interested in this window. And so I don't know how like the links are kind of vague, like they're coming from like a Belgium publication, but this Belgium publication has also been right about our interest in Sambi as well as our interest in Yuri Tielemans. So they know a little something, something. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we were interested in this player because of the year left on the deal. But what do you guys think about Trossard? I think in terms of bringing in somebody that knows the league, that definitely is better than some of the players that we have. And I know that it's like, well, he plays for Brighton. He's better than some of the players that we have playing up top. He has the end product already. Like he definitely could play in a top 16, like easily. But I don't think some Arsenal fans would be like super excited about it. But what do you guys think about it? Because I think I would go for him as like the left wing option. And that can also kind of play as a number 10. He can also do different things. Let's see. Onyx Lens says, I take Trossard over Raphinha 100%. She Knows Football says, very good player. Manib says, if we're shopping at Brighton, we should go for Basuma, Wepu, Lamptey, or Kukurea instead. I think Trossard is one of their best players. And Wepu, I get it. Like, we want to bring in more of the athleticism and things like that. I don't actually rate Lamptey that high. Kukurea is obviously amazing, but he'll go to Manchester City. So, I get that. But, in also Basuma's case, there's no way we probably go for him right now. But, Trossard is one of their best players. When he played against us, he whooped our ass. I seen him whip Manchester United's ass. He did it to Spurs as well. So this player is not he's not a joke. He's not just some bum. The guy is actually pretty good. Saida says, Brighton create more chances than us. Would his output translate to our team? I do think he's a good player, though. Once we get better technical players in our team and we can actually sustain the pressure because we have players up top that can do something, then, yeah, we'll create more chances as well. I don't think – he's one of the ones that helps Brighton create those chances. So I think he'd be good. Matt says Trossard is criminally underrated. This is one of those where it's and when we start talking about we need more depth and more quality, I think this player hits both of those. Because he could be a depth option, but he's not like Sambi or Tavares, where he's so far away from being in the first team that it's almost like not having a player anyway. This is somebody who like could definitely lift the floor. Now, whether or not he'll ever be world class or whatever like that, I'm not sure. That's not necessarily exactly what we need. We need players that we need more numbers and we need more quality. And he does both, and he wouldn't cost as much as like other players because he has 1 year left. Now, Brighton are really freaking difficult to deal with, and we know that from dealing with for Ben White. But I'd be interested to see what they would want for him with 1 year left, and if we could prize him away from them, because this is somebody I would probably really look at. Um, let's see. Tony says a lot of Trossard love. Maybe I should take a second look. I'm not super high on Trossard, but seems like the chat likes him. I mean, if he doesn't fit your eye, he doesn't fit your eye. Like there's just some players like that you look at and you're like, why do people think that they're so good? I just have watched him a couple of times and it was hard for me to figure out if I actually thought he was good or not because I didn't know if it was just a system. Brighton, all their players look pretty good in that system. But when I seen him play for Belgium, I was like, yeah, he's actually really good. And what he does have is the ability to put the ball in the back of the net, which we don't have a lot of players that can do. And so even if he doesn't play every single game, that's a good quality depth option. Delando says Trossard is an excellent technical player who can play a few positions, instantly improves our attack, and the price would be reasonable. I believe this would be a smart signing. Big up, Jess. Big up to you as well. Saksham says Jesus looks on paper very good, but he's average. I completely disagreed. Gabriel Jesus is not an average player. You can't be average and play for Manchester City. It just doesn't compute. It's not computing. Sorry. Elliot Roberts says Trossard is not a priority. Basuma is a priority. Basuma's not a priority. It's already been reported several times that he's not a priority. So there's that. Leonide says, Jess, this window will be about buying signature players, only 2 or 3. Rest will be prospects and upgrades from Hale End. I kind of doubt that a little bit. I kind of doubt that because you can't fill the 25 with kids. If you do that, then you might as well just sign us up for Europa League again. I'm going to choose to be a little bit more positive and not say that we're just going to sign 2 or 3 players and that's it, and everybody else is going to be kids from Hale End, because that just can't be it. It just can't be. Sorry. Lynn says Brighton are difficult, but they will do the business with us. Let's see. Keenan says Trossard is a highly technical player on the wing. Martinelli still needs 1 or 2 seasons to develop, and he could really learn a lot as his understudy. Tony says, question for the chat, can Trossard play 10? You guys let him know. He can, from what I've seen. So yeah, I mean, I think Trossard starts for Arsenal. Here's my thing is we're not getting Gnabry. So, we can just kind of forget about that. And I know that Trossard doesn't excite people, but he is better than what we have. And we massively overrate some of our players, I think, because we project onto them what we think they will be. But right now, ESR and Martinelli are really inconsistent. They don't score goals on a regular rate, or ESR does, but he disappears out of games and he's very he does not fit. And Martinelli doesn't score the goals because he doesn't have the end product yet, but he, is in the games. We need grown-ups in this team. We need players that can lift the levels. Trossard plus Eddie, Gabriel Jesus, and Martinelli and Xhaka would mean Europa League is our best hope. Fair enough. But who else? Who do you think we could get that would really raise the level? We've been linked to Gakpo. I don't think that he walks straight into the team and doesn't need a long adaptation time. So, does he really lift the levels? We're not getting Gnabry. Um, you know, who are we getting, at this point? And this also doesn't include, signing Tielemans as well. So, I don't know. Mikey B says, I liked Trossard before he went to Brighton. I like his attitude. Saksham says, Raul de Thomas is a baller. Proud to be a Geordie says Ericsson. Ericsson will probably go to Spurs. Craig says, agree, just 100%. Lynn says, if Arteta does this with the Haaland boys, he might as well leave Arsenal. I mean, if that's what they do, if they think that they can bring in Gabriel Jesus, Tielemans, and Aaron Hickey, and then just promote a bunch of kids and we're going to be fine, we might as well just fire them now, and get a new manager and just start over, because that's not good enough. Like, it's just not, it's just crap, and at the beginning they were saying that we would spend between 100 and 150 million. And right now, those two signings that we're getting only get us like halfway there. So I just can't see that. If that's what they're doing, then forget it. Keenan says, I love Martinelli, but he still dribbles with his head down. Mackie says Neto over Trossard. Neto, I mean, what has he done lately? He's been injured for a long time. He's another one of those that looks really good doing things, but I don't necessarily feel like he's much better than Martinelli. He just looks really good and he's Portuguese. I just nah. And he's also left-footed, or no, what is he? Is he left-footed? I don't know. I think one time I looked at him and I was like, I don't think Arteta would use him. So yeah, I don't know. And also, isn't Pedro Neto like 23? We don't need more kids. We don't need more kids. Manib says, I agree with you, Jess. We need depth, but quality and depth along with those players who can play multiple positions. Hence, Trossard ticks a lot of boxes, as well as Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus. Tony says, would Trossard be a 5-sub starter finisher depth type signing? Chad has me coming around. I mean, I think he starts for us. This is like every time I watch Brighton play, he pops off of the screen because he's so technical, and he does a lot of the Odegaard-y type of stuff in their team. So, I think he'd be good. The only thing is he has more end product than Odegaard. He actually scores goals and creates a lot of chances. So he's one of those like underrated type of really good signings that we could have, Craig says, apart from Jesus and Tielemans, the rest of the signing targets we are linked with are Europa League level. I mean, are we going to spend 75 million on Nkunku? Probably not. That's the thing. It's like when they didn't get into Champions League, they kind of made it impossible to get certain signings. So Nkunku's not coming to Arsenal without Champions League. It's not happening. It's not. Gnabry, he was never coming. We made that up. So we can get upset at the club for, not meeting the targets, which meant we can't get certain targets. But equally, we have to look in the market and see what players actually tick the boxes for our team. And I think this is somebody that would. So yeah. Capo TV says, I've watched Scamacca last season as I spent a bit of time in Italy due to work. So I was fortunate to watch Sassuolo in big games. Good player, but not really clinical, which frustrates fans. I'm glad you've actually watched him play, because he's a compilation player. He looks really good on compilations because he's tall, and he hits the ball really hard, but I don't think he's anywhere near the finished article. Blaze says, I like Martinelli, but he is not better than Trossard. Martinelli and ESR need time to develop and improve. We don't need to rush them to carry Arsenal at that age. It also concerns Xhaka. I would like us to bring in players that are just as good, if not better, as those players, and let them sit a little bit. Yo-Yo says Trossard starts over Martinelli, in my opinion, but I don't know how I feel about him alongside Jesus and Saka, depending on whether Xhaka's on the pitch. So what would Xhaka's inclusion do to hurt those players playing up top together? I think that's my question. You know what I mean? Because I guess that's my question, is like, what would be the problem with Xhaka being on the pitch besides the fact that he just needs to go? Nashville says it's a choice between getting Trossard or Zinchenko. I prefer Zinchenko. Um, they don't play the same position, so I don't know if it'd be a choice between the two, but I hear you. Alan says we are realistically going to sign Zinchenko is to stay at Man City, a new deal extension, and Trossard would be a very shrewd buy. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those signings that other teams do, and we're sitting there next season like, why didn't we look at Trossard? I really think it's one of those. And I know that we want big name signings that we feel like are really going to move the needle, but you kind of kill those opportunities off when you don't make it into the Champions League. So we have to do as best as we can. And there's just some players that are not going to come to Arsenal. We've been outside of the Champions League too long. We don't have a manager that has the type of pull that can, get us at the front of the queue of anything. So we're just in a position where we need to look for the best that we possibly can, you know? Um, so yeah, let's just see what happens. But make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Last couple, Arsenal are keen. On to bring up midfield reinforcements in the summer with Fabian Ruiz high on their priority list. I would say that, like, I know that, we're talking a lot about Granit Xhaka, and some people are really disappointed that he might be staying, but links to Fabian Ruiz and Ruben Neves would say to me that there maybe is still a chance of Granit Xhaka leaving. I hope that somebody takes him off of our hands this summer. I do want to move on from Granit. He's done a good job, but he's not gonna get any better, and the league is just only getting faster, and, it just is what it is. It's time to move on from him. But Arsenal are keen to bring in midfield enforcements this summer with Fabian Ruiz high on their priority list. They're saying that the fee would be somewhere around 25 million pounds. If the fee is that low, I don't see us being able to get him unless Real Madrid and Barcelona are not interested in him. I don't think Real Madrid would go after him now that they have Tchouaméni, but maybe Barcelona, with the limited funds that they have, would be looking at somebody like Fabian Ruiz. So I would like him to come to Arsenal. I do think that he would probably wait to see if Champions League teams come in for him, but he's another one that has 1 year left on his deal that kind of fits with the kind of theme here. And I mean, if you could move Granit Xhaka on and bring in Fabian Ruiz and also bring in Yuri Tielemans, I think you're that step. You're a couple of steps closer to being to where you want to be. Because Fabian Ruiz, like, a lot of people are like, he's the same as Xhaka. He's not. They're both not very fast, but Fabian Ruiz can actually step past his man by dribbling. Like, he can actually dribble past somebody. He has very good technical skill. He's left-footed just like Granit, but he's better on the edges of the penalty area. Like, he's better on the edges of the box, and he can also add goals to the team. So he has things that Granit Xhaka doesn't have, and he also has the ability to get better because he's only 26. So yeah, I think he's somebody that, if we would have to wait. This is one we'd have to wait. Granit Xhaka would have to go, and he would have to not have any real suitors, Champions League suitors at the end of the window. But I do like Fabian a lot, and I would take him at Arsenal. And just kind of piggybacking off of that, um, this is coming from, like, Italian media, so take it with a grain of salt, but Roma are still interested in signing Granit Xhaka, and the possible arrival of Yuri Tielemans to Arsenal could open up a deal. This is like music to my ears. Like, and I know that people are like, well, Roma are going to sign Matic on a free, but they also could potentially lose Pellegrini, and they've already lost Mkhitaryan. So, there will be spots opening up there, and it seems like Jose Mourinho is keen to get Premier League players into that side, and he was really interested in Granit last summer. If Roma were to come back in for Granit Xhaka, even if it was for 12 million, 10 million, whatever, you need to move him on. It's time. It's time to do something else. Like, we just need new energy in this team. I get that he's a leader behind the scenes, and the young players really like his help, but ultimately, like, we need to move forward with better players. And one thing that just kind of annoys me a little bit about the fan base is that because we want to be so positive on Arsenal is that we've rewritten the history on Granit Xhaka, rewritten him into some undroppable, misunderstood, really good player, but he's just not that good. And a way that you can just it's so obvious that he's not that good because nobody's come in for him. Most really good players that we have, because we have underperformed for a long time, have had plenty of suitors. And he hasn't. He's only had like one team over the 5 years come in for him. And if you have to overly explain why a player is actually good, they're probably not that good. Granit Xhaka is a good player that has done really well over the last 2 seasons under Mikel Arteta, but we need to upgrade upon. That's just the facts in my view. So if Roma were to come back in for him, 10, 12 million, I would let him go and replace him with Fabian Ruiz or somebody like that, somebody of that level, because it's just, I mean, it's not even there's hasn't been a Champions League level team that's even come in for him. Like Roma are like a Europa League team just like we are, I think. So he's just it's just time. Like it really is. I'm hoping. Um Shaq Sham says, "You guys haven't seen Ruiz. He's miles better than Granit Xhaka. He is better than him, I think. That's my opinion." Saida says, "Xhaka is always overrated by Arsenal fans. I've never understood it, but to me, it just shows how far we've fallen at a club. Mediocrity seems to have seeped into the fan base." Um, Keenan says, "Granit Xhaka will do great in Italy. He just can't turn with pressure and pace in the Premier League. He's a huge liability. His turnovers and lack of progression cost us in games." Um, let's see. Lionite says, "Don't buy, don't sell to Italy. Lost cause." Kaistrop says, "Ruiz would be an upgrade on Xhaka offensively, but it would be a mass downgrade defensively. Ruiz has the same physical limits, but also doesn't play positionally well. Unlike Yuri Tielemans, Ruiz doesn't press well." Well, this is the false narrative that we built. Like, my opinion is that Granit Xhaka was a defensive liability before Arteta came in. He wasn't a good defensive player before. And that's because the way that our Arsene played and the way that Unai played was like a free for all. So anybody who plays in a better system that has players with the right distances and good positional like play will look better in that system than they do in whatever team they're in right now. So the idea that Granit Xhaka is good defensively is a myth. Arteta has hid his flaws and put him in a system where he doesn't get exposed. So that's why I said like Yuri Tielemans will be fine as well. Because if you look at the players that play for City, a lot of them are not particularly athletic or good defensively. The distances are good, so they're never exposed. They never really get exposed. So you think the likes of like Rodri's not very athletic, Gundogan's not very athletic, Bernardo Silva's not very athletic. These players aren't fast, and these players aren't defensive dynamos. They work really hard and they're in good positions. They know where they need to be so that the distances are good. That's why Granit Xhaka is not getting exposed. And that's why people think he's good defensively. But before that, he wasn't. A couple of years ago, everybody wanted Granit Xhaka gone because he was a defensive liability. So I just think if you put a Fabian Ruiz in there too, right where Granit Xhaka is staying in our system, it would be fine. Granit Xhaka is not a great defender. He's just in a good system that hides his flaws. Um, Tony says, "If I was Xhaka, I would be looking for a move, big injury, which he recovered from well last year. Time to move to Spain or Italy." I agree. Blaze says, "If Xhaka will leave Arsenal this season, it will be one of the biggest transfers for Arsenal. It's time to move on. You can't make top four or win titles with Granit Xhaka and El Neni." Craig says, "Younger fans, mediocrity levels. They have only seen failure the last 16 years, etc. I grew up watching Arsenal lift 5 league titles. Xhaka is very average." He is average. Like, I mean, I think, well, I won't say he's average. I think he's good. And if you move to another league, he would look even better. But we need better than good. Other teams are really improving. The middle, the upper middle is improving. And for a long time, we've had one of the weakest midfields in the league. it's a wonder how we haven't dropped further, so I think it's because Aubameyang was here and he was saving our ass. So we really just need to move on from this. Um, I think, you know, from Granite, if something were to come in for him, which is still yet to be seen. Ivy says Arteta is more concerned with his positional play. It's why Xhaka has been all right in his system. Another baller improves this team a lot. I agree. Let's see. Um, let's see. Capo TV says, I don't think Ruiz or Xhaka are the type of profiles that we need alongside Party. I think we need more legs as an alternative to Tielemans. I would love Tielemans, Basuma, and Party. Perfect. I could see, I could see, the Basuma thing working out. I can, because I do think that, having more physicality always can help. The one thing that I will say is that I think Arteta prefers technical players to athletes. If you look at Thomas Partey, he's not a typical like central defensive midfielder. He's kind of like a ball player, technical player that can get out of the press. That just happens to be physical enough where you look at him as such. Um, so I've never seen us linked with those types of players, like just the athletes. Like I haven't seen it. And I do think Basuma has more to give than just his athleticism. But what I will say is we've been linked with Fabian Ruiz and Neves enough for me to believe that Arteta likes his central defensive midfielders or his pivot players or his eights to be more technical than physical monsters. So even though I can see Basuma working, I think Arteta just prefers the technical players a little bit more. Yeah. Let's see. Kai Strop says, I agree, but we are talking about Xhaka under Arteta. He's been positionally sound. I don't really love him. I would rather find someone without physical limits. Well, that's fair enough. I would say if your argument is, I just don't want somebody that has physical limits, cool. But if the argument is that Granit Xhaka is some defensive dynamo and he's a better defensive player than Fabian Ruiz, that's just no. He's not. He's just in a good position, like you said. If you just like, and a lot of Arsenal fans want that physicality, but I don't see us linked with those types of players. So it just leads me to believe that Arteta wants more of the Neves, Ruiz type midfielders. Let's see. Yo-Yo says the City CMs clock up great distances. A midfielder has to be either technically secure or athletic. Xhaka is neither. Let's see. Craig says Bayern Munich wanted Xhaka before we signed him, but he didn't want to sit on their bench before his move. He had so much potential in Germany. Yep, that was like 5 years ago, and I know that like Manchester City had a decision to make between Granit Xhaka and Gundogan, and we got Granit for 34 million, which is a lot 5 years ago, and they went and got Gundogan for 20. So again, and Arsene was calling Granit a box-to-box midfielder, and he was never that. So the recruitment was just not it. It just wasn't on point. Thank you so much for your super chat, She Knows Football. I really appreciate it. She Knows Football says that was on point about Rodri Gundogan and Xhaka shortening space due to awareness and professionalism. It's just, that's what I see. I've just never seen like him as being like this defensive, whatever. He just needs to be more conservative and sit at the base of midfield because he can't be a box to box because he doesn't have the athleticism. And when you put players near him, he doesn't get as exposed. But when he was playing under Emery and Arsene, we were always exposed because we didn't play any sort of positional football. We were very much a free flowing, just go do it type of team. So now things look different. So people have changed their narrative around Granit Xhaka and act as though we can improve upon him. And I just think we've gone too far. We need to improve upon Xhaka, and there's a lot of midfielders who could help us. Let's see. But Anike says Xhaka has been overrated by Arsenal fans because we when he was out, we literally had no quality in midfield and we were getting bullied. Xhaka makes us look competent, but this is the window to move on. So yeah, if somebody were to come in for him, I think we need to move on. But equally, I do think he's going to be hard to move on because I don't think he's going to be high in demand. So let's see what happens. But I wouldn't hold my breath, but I am hoping. So last but not least, let's just talk about Ainsley. Nottingham Forest have made contact this week to check on Maitland-Niles' availability and have made him a transfer priority this summer. Arsenal are ready to sell the player. So we've been here and done that before. We had the opportunity to sell him to Wolves, and we could have gotten 15 million. I doubt we'll get that much from Forest. It'll probably be somewhere between 8 to 10 that they'll offer, if that. And we need to take whatever it is. We are not, he has like 1 year left on his deal. This is the time to sell him. And really, the Premier League is the only league that has money in it. And so I think this just speaks to like where we need to be looking to sell our players is in the Premier League, because that's where the money is. If Forest are willing to buy him, then let's do it. I think Forest would be a good place for Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He could play fullback and he has some Premier League experience, or maybe they'll play him in midfield. I don't really care. The Roma move didn't really work out for him. Don't know what he's learned from it. Don't know if he's learned anything from it. Don't know if I care if he's learned anything from it. I just want us to get the coin, get the coin and move this player on. Him with Bellerin and Torreira, Guendouzi's already gone, and Bern Leno are the players that I'm really looking at like, okay, we need to make sure that we move them on. Pablo Marie will probably go for another loan. And then you have Pepe, who will see what Adu can do with him. I think he's going to struggle to do anything with Pepe. But those players, those initial ones that I named, we need to get some sort of fee for them. I know it'll be small, but move these players on and get into that next phase. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I think is a good player, but in his search to be a midfielder, I think he's almost squandered his opportunity to get into the England national team as well. And that's unfortunate, I think, for him. And he's 25 now. So he's not really a young player. And he just needs to be somewhere where he can kind of just work on his game and see what his future can be. But his future is 100% away from Arsenal. And, hopefully we can find a deal for him. Let's see. Alan says Pepe will move to Sevilla or PSG. Blaze says, I think it's time to sell Ainsley. It seems like he doesn't fit Arteta's system. Fair enough. Craig says AMN was so poorly advised, in my opinion. Tony says good move for both teams and the player. I agree. It's just the right thing. Is to move him on and try to get a fee. Lynn says just because they really wasn't the winning mentality under Wenger and Emery, now because the team has more winning mentality, he has looked better. Fair enough. I think you're talking about Granite. Alan says AMN cash in now. Lynn says AMN has to go back to playing left back. Tony says I would do something like 10 plus and 10 plus 5 if they stay up. Jay says, yes, Jess, we back again. Let's go. Push the like button. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Yeah, I think we've had this opportunity before. If they offer cash, you take it. You're not going to, retain value or anything because he has like a year left on his deal. And it's just unfortunate that we always kind of have to sell our players for lower, but what I've seen over the years is that we've had opportunities to sell our players, and instead of just taking it, we're always like, we're going to hold out for better options, and they never come. We held down on Lacazette. He ended up leaving for free. We held on Xhaka. He's still here. We held down on Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and we're probably going to get less than what we were offered from Wolves. So I look at Ainsley and I'm like, it's just time. And I still see Arsenal fans wanting to find a way to Jimmy rig him in. I think it's more the aspect that I think he wants to move on and he doesn't want to play the position that we would be playing him in. I know that he said he would play anywhere that the coach told him to play. I think the fact that Big Sam came out and said that he needs to go back to Arsenal and just play where they told him to play, I think does speak to the aspect of he can say what he wants to in the media about I'll play wherever the manager wants me to play. He didn't want to play fullback. He thinks he's a midfielder. He went to Roma to play midfield and they still played him as a wingback and then he ended up on the bench. The guy just, it is what it is. You can't get worked up about Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Lionide says AMM will stay at Arsenal. He will challenge for the fullback spots. I completely doubt that. Sammy says Arsenal need players with pure passion. Ivy says I sell him for $8. Let's clear out the deck for AMN, Torreira, and the others. Matt says AMM wants to play midfield. He's not good enough, in my opinion. And you're saying that to Lionide. Yo-Yo says when I see AMM, I see Zinchenko, a fluid player, perfect for positional play. Shocked how it ended after Arteta convinced him to stay after the FA Cup. I mean, he didn't want to play fullback, and then when he didn't want to play fullback, we ended up rushing into the market to bring Cedric in. So, and it was there was a lot going on in those times. So for me, it needs to be moved on. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I thought, played his best under Arteta when he was playing kind of like that inverted fullback role before Bellerin came back. Bellerin was injured and then Ainsley was playing there, and Ainsley had just enough of the midfield about him to play like a midfielder in the fullback position, like you said, kind of like Zinchenko. And then all of a sudden it just fell apart when Bellerin came back. He didn't want to play there. He wanted to play midfield. We brought in Cedric. It was a mess. And so it just hasn't worked out. iGamer says even Saka is more mature than AMN. Dude should have just played his role and stopped crying. I mean, I can't hate on a player for backing himself. I just don't think that it works out for him. Lynn says Sam Allardyce told AMN when he played for West Brom he had a heart-to-heart and said he should just do what the manager wanted, but AMN knew better. Yeah, it's just one of those. It just hasn't worked out. There you go. Tony says, I'm going to miss AMN's penalties. That's what he's best at. He's really good at that. Neil says AMN should have been sold when the team wanted him for 20 million. Exactly. And we have to learn our lessons from this. There's holding on firm for certain players, but I think when it's players that you don't really want in your team, you kind of just take what you can get. And if you're not going to give them the opportunities for their value to increase, then what's the point? And I think with Ainsley, we kept him and then didn't play him, so he couldn't retain his value, and his value didn't go up, which didn't make sense. Even with Lacazette, we kept him, and then he fell out of the team, like to the point where Nketiah was starting above him. So why didn't we just sell him? It's just we're kind of shocking in certain ways, but hopefully we sell Ainsley and Torreira and Bellerin and we move on from here. But yeah, Ainsley, bye. So that's going to be the end of the show, you guys. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Sunday, I am trying to get Sophie on the show, so stand by for that. Make sure that you guys have your notifications and on and stuff like that. I will for sure be back on Sunday. I'm just hoping it's with Sophie so we can kind of talk about what our expectations are. And if anything, any news breaks or anything, I'll come back, even if it's tomorrow or whatever. So yeah, make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. Zach 10, Tony, Yo-Yo, O'Malley, Ify, Nashville, Saida. Let's see, Keenan, always here. She knows football. Thank you. Lion-eyed. Making sure I get all my regulars. And all the new people. Thank you so much. Neil, never seen you here before, but thank you for showing up. Your comments were great. Blaze, you're always here. Thank you. Lynn. So yeah, I will see you guys on the next one. Oh, let me tell you guys something funny. So it's not really funny, but like I can't use the music anymore from StreamYard. So, I always put the music on before when you guys are waiting for the show to start. I love that. Like the little song. I think it's so it's good. But I've been getting copyright things from it, which is so annoying because StreamYard lets you use it. But then if you use it and you post it on YouTube, you get a copyright thing. So there won't be any music. I'll download something like a YouTube one so I can put it on because I like having music there. But if you're wondering like what happened to the music, that's what happened. Okay, bye guys.